Yeah, hi, welcome. Do you hear me? Doesn't work now? Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. Always the wrong side of the button. Yeah, so welcome to my session. Everything is slow. Hopefully I'll give you an interesting time. My name is Marteinn and I work in Iceland at a service provider company. We are doing everything for customers that need IT services. So we are like an IT department for the company that is our customer. My normal customers has just employees and no IT personnel. So we have help desk and first level support and second level support and third level support for the applications the customers are running. And we are hosting most of them in-house in our data center. I'm on Twitter as Marteinn, so you can send me a message and tag me there if you have any comments while I do the session. And I have a blog, vblog.is. It's mostly storage and VMware related posts there. I'm also a VMUG leader for Iceland and have been for 2 years. We started the VMUG in Iceland 2 years ago. And then I have a whole lot of certifications because I've been in this game for a very long time, so I'm not going to read out all those. What I do in my work, my primary job role is infrastructure architect, and I design and implement and manage the infrastructure, and I manage the storage and the servers and the virtual environment and also the backup. And then I have all the guys in my team that are my backup. So we are using NetApp fast storage and Cisco UCS platform for servers and VMware for virtual environment. I had when I started in this company 1 year ago, we had 2 different VMware installations and 2 different Hyper-V installations and several standalone servers, and the guy that I replaced just had no overview of anything, so I put everything into one environment, and then I use Veeam to back everything up, and also I'm doing a lot of help for other admins that are getting stuck with their VMs, and then they ask me to help diagnose the problem and often fix them for them. I've been being Windows and Exchange admin for a very long time also. So everything is slow, and that's the name of the session. And how do we proceed? When you get this message from your customer or your help desk, everything is slow, and that's in their eyes the most critical problem in the world, and they can't even find out if it's their computer or the network or the storage or whatnot. So when you get this from your users or your help desk, you are maybe getting tickets from several customers complaining, and it's very difficult to fix something in an environment when everything is slow, because it's very rare that every component in the environment is slow. It's part of the system might be slow. So you have to find out what this is, and there are several methods in this, but really you have to ask questions back and say, okay, who is affected and how are they affected? When did it happen? Has it happened before? And ask those questions. And if you have maybe 10 customers complaining and 10 people at each customer site complaining, calling the company, obviously they can't call you, the only guy doing the storage or the VM. They have to call the help desk, and the help desk has to find some common factor, and this first level, second level, third level method has to work. And then there's also customers that call your manager or the CTO of the company or somebody, and they start to ask you, why don't you just fix this? And you're still in a step that you don't have a description of the actual problem. The only problem you have is everybody tells us they have some problems, but how do you actually find the real problem? So you have to define the problem, and you have to plan some actions, evaluate risks, and then implementing some fixes. It's very common that you have to implement a fix just like this, and you have no idea of root cause, and if you're just going to press the buttons like some monkey, you're not getting anywhere. So here's just a overview slide of this, and the point is here, you can imagine if all those customers would call this guy here. And this is a SAN admin maybe. And he's not going to manage or do any changes on the SAN if he's talking to all those guys. So if you're this guy and you start to get calls from this part of the slide, he has to just step up and say, no, you have to go away. 15 minutes, please. So just talk to this guy here, and he will talk to me. So that's impossible to, especially if they say the whole system is down and 10 customers are affected, that then you can't handle all the human factor as well. Because these guys here, they are probably paid to handle the human factor, and you are here paid to handle the technical factor. So don't try to talk to everybody on, yes, please, we will fix this and after 10 minutes, or so just step away from that. So, and if you can handle this, then most likely the technical part of the problem is just a tiny part, but getting all those people away from you, that's the most difficult part. So how do you define the problem? The first thing is to get information on who is affected, and what is the problem description for all the users or admins that are complaining. How are they affected? And then you can map out, okay, what's common between all those users. If it's a shared system, or are all those users connected to your office via the same network link, or what's a common physical component that is common between those users. And then you can see what systems are affected. Maybe if it's a latency issue on your network, then normally if you have a latency on the network, there's some traffic generating it, but there's nothing broken in the storage or the compute. There must be some program or some traffic from some users that is generating this. So you have to find out what's common, and then you can have some time looking at error messages, logs, and performance counters, and dig down into the individual system that is affected, and then you can find the root cause. Plan actions. When you find, actually, okay, I spent some time figuring out the error messages and found out this component here is out of sync or has to be rebooted or some broken hardware in it. Then you have to lay out what you're going to do. Are you going to replace the hardware or reboot, or what is actually the action? And then you have to evaluate the risk of that action. So if, for say, you have a ESX host and it has lost some path to the storage, and only part of the VMs are affected. Some VMs are still operational. So maybe you would fix the problem by rebooting the server, but first you have to look at the risk. You don't want to kill all the other VMs that are running. So you have to have to be aware of what are the risks of doing the actual fix that you know that you need to do. And inform the stakeholders when this is, because if you do some action and the customers all of a sudden detect a new type of problem that is a result of your fix, then they say, okay, you had problem this morning and now 2 hours later we have another problem. So that's not very good if the customers don't know that the process you're going to go has some risks. So you have to tell them, okay, we have to migrate some VMs off and some things might be slow during that time, and they have to be informed that you're working on a certain track to get everything fixed. The stakeholders are often the account managers and your managers. If you have a very high risk situation, like if you have a storage processor in your SAN, it's broken, and it's not very nice to just rip it out in the middle of the day. But if you have to do something really drastic, then get management on board and have them make the decision. Because in the end, this decision is most likely a business decision. So is it worth it to wait and maybe half of our users will complain until 6 o'clock and then we'll do it? Or should we do it just right away and get some users down, but everyone will be happy after half an hour? So that's a business decision. It's not a technical decision. So you have to get the management guys that are paid to do business to get them involved. So applying the fix, that often is really easy in actually doing it, but in some cases it can take time, like if you're migrating all VMs from a data store because of a corrupt LAN or something, then you can't just, you have to wait maybe 1 hour before you can get rid of all the VMs. So if that is the case, you have to just inform the customers, we have found the problem, we are working on solving it, but it will take this time, so after 1 hour we will call you and make sure everything is okay. So when you have applied the fix, it's very important to get verification, because it's very, very bad if you just leave the customer with the notion that you should have fixed it, but we aren't sure. So maybe the day after they have some similar problem or some other problem, they will always go and relate, this is because of the problem yesterday. So you have to tell them, okay, now I have fixed it, can you please tell me or verify it, it's okay now, at the end of the day. Then the next day they have some other problems, then they can't say, you are still fixing the first problem. And so the customer, if the customer detects that you're not working on an issue, it's just ongoing, then they will get angry, and you have to get good communications between them. And then a thing that is very often not done is to write down, like in a knowledge base, I got this problem because of this was a fix, and this was a result, and have it in a wiki or some form where other admins in your organization can get to it, because if you go on a summer holiday and the same problem arises, then they don't have to reinvent the wheel again. You can just see, this is a known known procedure to fix this problem, so we can just do that. Because it's very often just you're not the first one in the world to get a path down failure or some Windows blue screen errors. No, somebody else has had a problem also. So I want to talk about some tools I use in my day job to monitor the environment and see if everything is working okay and find errors and find odd behavior. And resetter, obviously there's a lot of performance counters on every object there, and that's normally my first go-to guy. Then VROPs. I use that a lot to see performance trends and I/O footprint of VMs. I have created a dashboard that shows the size of the VM in relation to how many IOPS it has, and color based on latency. So I can just look at that dashboard and see, okay, everything is okay in regard to latency in the whole environment, just on one dashboard. Then I use it also to do prediction on when to buy new hosts or add memory or capacity planning. Log Insight, I use that for error messaging, and when I'm finding out what is happening, and also I use it a lot to discover afterwards. If I get some error and I see, okay, I just have to reboot one host, and I will do that. The day after, I will just go into Log Insight and see all the error logs, and then I can write in the crash report, this was because of this and this. And also I use it to audit who are doing what in the environment. And it's often security team asking me when was this VM shut down and when it was deleted, or the business managers asking when was this service implemented for this customer. I could use Log Insight just to look in the name of the VM, and then I'll get the information when it was created or deleted and such. Then I have Observium. That's a network monitoring tool. It connects to all my physical switches and firewalls, and I use it to monitor traffic on all the links. And the network guy uses a lot, but I usually use it to monitor traffic for backups, to see if the backup traffic is doing some damage for the other customers during the day and such. For packet loss also. And Grafana, that's a tool that's for the NetApp performance graphs. It gives me very, very good information about latency and IOPS and load on the system, and loads on its volume and loads on its disk, and very detailed tool. So these tools are basically always open on my laptop when I'm working. And here's an example of using data. Here's a screenshot from VROPS. The size of the boxes are the I/O footprint of VMs, and the color is latency. So I just created a graph from 0 to 20 milliseconds. So here I have few VMs that have some latency, but for most cases, everybody is happy. And I used also information from VROPS to do a profile on my VMs, to see what VMs had the most IOs on average. Not like burst workloads, but for a 7-day average workload, I found out, and this is a list of VMs, and here's, you can't actually see it, but this is IOPS. So if I took like maybe 10% here of the VMs, I could take the names of the VMs and see if these VMs are the most IO demanding. And I used this to plan sizing for an all-flash array. So the total size of those VMs was the amount of all-flash array capacity I had to buy to address the last maybe 5 VMs accounted for like 85% of all the IOs in an environment. So you can use those data to make purchase decisions. Here's another image from Observium. This is network traffic to one of my proxies. Here I can see that the time when normally my backups are running. If I know that this profile here is a normal backup day, then I have another day here that had this spike here. If I get a call why was everything so slow at 5 o'clock last Thursday, I could just go here and quickly see, okay, and notice there was some backups doing at the same time. So if I know my normal traffic pattern, I can easily just see, okay, there's something going on in the system at this time. So having all those tools, it's very, very good and very important to know the normal state. So when you see some numbers on the screen, it's not just some numbers. You recognize that, okay, these numbers are not as they normally should be. And here's one case of how I used log insight to find a problem. This is a graph for one of my hosts. At this time here, I started to get a call from the help desk, and this was on Saturday, and very few admins were available, and basically the help desk just called, tried to find somebody, and say there are a lot of people complaining, and I don't know, but there's a lot of people calling, and then some of my admins started to call and saying, oh, there's a lot of problems, and everybody was panicking, but nobody could give me any real information. So I went into log insight, typed in error, that was my search string, and then I got a list of all errors, and below here I could see the names of my hosts, and I saw at one of the hosts had 10 or 15 times more errors than everybody else. Then I clicked on the name, and that was added to the query. Then I could see, okay, at 3 o'clock, this host started to have some errors, and I don't think the time was around here when I got the call. And then I could see, okay, there's just something happening on this host. I went in, put the host in maintenance mode, and the VMs just migrated off. And I just had the host in maintenance mode until Monday morning when I had a look at it. And the problem was fixed for everybody. Without having any information about what actually was the problem, I just found out this host had an error, a lot more than normally, put it in maintenance mode, waited, then continue to be at home on Saturday. So having like a log insight tool to gather all the error messages from every component in the system, it would probably have taken me several hours and a lot of customer screaming to find out what actually was happening. I just found out very easily that this guy was the root cause, and what actually was the root cause was a storage path. But I didn't mind at that time. I just wanted the customers to migrate from it, so just put it in maintenance mode and case closed. So here's an example of how some tools can help you. And yeah, like I said, I would probably spent several hours if I didn't have this tool, because downloading logs from each host and catching errors in in tail or something, it takes time. Here's another graph. This is from Grafana. And everybody loves latency, right? So I use this to monitor latency. And in this case, I got a call from one of the CS admins that said 1 hour ago we had some problems, and can you find out what's happening? During the call, the problem all of a sudden stopped and latency went back to normal. But having this history, I could see, okay, there's definitely something that happened here. I could see both on the throughput, there was some additional throughput on number of IOs going up, and therefore the latency. But what actually happened, I had to take down to this data store and use realize operation to find what VM was involved. But there I could very quickly verify to this admin that, okay, there was something happening. Because if you don't have any data like this, and they called, did something happen 1 hour ago? And you said, I don't know, I was just having my coffee. But if you have tools like this, then you can actually verify it and help them out. And sometimes sysadmins ask you for some questions, and they're the root cause. But if it is infrastructure, then you have to have some tools to help you find it. And here's another sample where I had a VM that was red, and all the other VMs were okay. And when this happened, the admin of this VM was obviously not very happy. But I found out after we had a look at this, that this VM was sold as a slow storage tier, and the sold, what we do in the environment, we have just IO caps on the systems. So he was just hitting his IO cap, and basically I just told him, okay, you have to talk to a sales guy and sell them more performance. There's nothing wrong with the underlying storage. And if normally, if you didn't have an overview of the storage like this, you would verify, okay, I have latency, and where do you go next? Check on the storage end, and spend some time there, verify it now, no, it's not very high latency on the storage. Come back here, verify, yeah, this VM has latency, but if you don't have this, you don't have anything to compare to. So you start to spend your time looking at all kinds of things. But if you have this overview here, you can just see, okay, it's isolated to this VM. But some days are like this. All VMs in the data storage is basically fucked up. And then it's true that everything is low, and you have to check the underlying system. And in this case, this is measuring storage latency. So in this case, I went in the storage, so the latency was visible there, and every counter, everyone was verifying that the back-end storage, the RAID group behind this data store, it just would not ever handle all the traffic it was requested. And the root cause here was, as you can see, this is just one data store. There was basically just too much traffic, too many VMs with high demands put on the same data store. So the solution here was just to migrate some of the VMs off to another data store with another volume. So, and that obviously took some time, but the customer had to wait maybe 1 hour or 2 hours until the system was recovering. But you can't get into a situation when it is true that everything is slow for the users. So that can happen, and you have to, sometimes as a storage admin you have to admit that even though we have a very fast storage and spindles still just spin around at a certain speed, and there's no magic in how much 10 spindle RAID array can do. Here's another sample. This is a data store, and here I have one VM that is almost taking all the IOs. But this is planned for. This was known, and you can see here I only have very few VMs on this data store. So it's not an issue that even that one guy is really, really big. Everybody is happy on this one. So if you design for this monster VM, or what we would call it, then it's not a problem. So from this to this is just the controls and design, and if you have a lot of admins just pounding on your data store and putting a lot of workload, you have to control it in some way. But it can't be normal to have very big VMs. That's not a problem as such. What is most important in not getting you into this red situation when everything is slow is the plan for growth. And you have maybe some idea from the business side, how big is the business growing, and you can do some estimates. But very often it's forgotten to design for failures. So what if one of my storage controllers fails? Does the other one perform? Can it overtake the normal operations of two controllers? So you have to have some plans for this. Maybe you have a contract with a storage vendor for getting on site and replacing the controller after 4 hours. You can do that, but is it acceptable for all the users to experience slow performance for 4 hours? So you have to plan for things like that. Also, it's very important to define SLAs in regard to performance, not just saying it has to be available 99.95 of the time. We define this level of service is like bronze storage speed, and then it's 100 IOPS, and gold is maybe 400, or platinum 1000. So define those limits in the SLAs. And when you do that, and the customer hits a limit, like the one VM that was going red, then there is no surprise for him. Okay, I saw when I bought the product, I chose the most slowest form of disk, and now I just have to buy a more expensive one, and then that's the solution. And especially when, like me, for a service provider, it's very difficult to predict how my customers will grow, or what customers will come in and what customers will go out. So I always has to have like a buffer in the environment. I have to secure funding for that buffer, even though that presence of free space or free performance isn't having any revenue. It's potential revenue that I'm protecting. So if a customer has a merger with another company, and then all of a sudden this customer is twice the size just over one weekend. So you have to plan with management and secure fundings, and make them sure that as long as you are getting more workloads, then you need more stuff in your data center, and then you need more money to buy it. So standing still and having the business growing, that will end up with you in a situation where every host is loaded and all the storage is overflooded with IOPS, and you will lose your customers. And use available software tools. It's much easier to get licenses and pay for licenses than to train and have a good technicians. In the enterprise, for good VMware or storage or network admins, it's very expensive people. So if you can use software license options to do some automatic functions, then it's normally much more cheaper to use Enterprise or Enterprise Plus features instead of having maybe the essential versions and having to pay someone to do some offline work during the night. So even though I'm not a salesperson of any kind, software options is often the smartest thing you can do, especially if you are saving work from this guy here. And having him doing overnighters just to shut down VMs, migrating between data stores, turning everything up again, having all the sysadmins verify the application is working, and creating all sorts of risks for your business. So buy the licenses to save you all this trouble. That's very important. And here's just an sample. The top one. This was the environment when I started in the company, and I did have no option to put any host in maintenance mode, and they had been up and running for 2 years almost, all of them. So no patching and nothing done, and all the customers were screaming every day because of performance issues and all kinds of problems. Now I made a deal with my CTO that if my memory on a normal operation is at 70% average or 30% CPU, I will buy a new host. And with this, I have failover capabilities, I have scalability for certain bursts in workloads, and most importantly, the customers that I'm running is a lot of retail companies. And when you're at a point of sale and 10 people are buying bananas at a local grocery store and the system is slow and everybody gets angry, it's very important to have very good response. So I'm running a lot of databases for those types of customers. And I've seen before I added some hosts, when my host was on average on 40%, we got call from all customers complaining about the retail solutions. It was just not acceptable for them. So normally you would consolidate a little bit more on this, but my customer base is of that particular type, that 30% is the limit on CPU and 70% on memory. Then I will initiate to buy a host. So it's very important to have this plan. But when do I know when to buy a host? I use planning tool in VROPS. Here's memory consumed on one of my clusters. Here was the time I took the screenshot. And with the growth rate I had here at this state, I would have a new host. So I showed this to my CTO, and he said, yeah, okay, we will order a host, somebody around this time. It takes 2 weeks to ship to Iceland and get installed. So we don't get into this red zone, because if we get into this red zone, our customers will start to complain. So why wait until here and have them complain for 2 weeks, and some of them might just leave the company. So using a tool like this is very important for us. And then the last one, use protection. This is something you have seen in the Cohesity booth. They have some protection there, if you went there. But those options are based on licensing also. have the availability to use latency control and limits and storage IO controls, network IO controls. Usually those options are available in the enterprise editions, but having those options can give you the option to have a much safer environment and have control of the systems. And like this here, this is manually set to this IOs because this customer is only buying those IOs. So if he has latency, need more, we will just increase the value and sell him more IOs. It's just like a number of potatoes you buy in the grocery store, based on family size. Yeah, so this is my session. I think my time is about to be finished. So, yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, and you can also send me a message and tell me I sucked or was good or whatever. I'm not normally speaking English for a crowd, so I do struggle with that, but I hope you will forgive me for that. Yeah, so thank you for being here.